be done and a race will be won, and we know we will win every time. Just give me faith, heads up high. We're together in this, you and I. Yes, the job will be done and the race will be won, and we know we will win every time.
Good night, Tobago. Good night, Trinidad and Tobago. Chairman of the Tobago Island Council of the PNM, Mr. Stalford Calendar, and other members of the executive of the Tobago Island Council, other party officers here in Tobago, my cabinet colleague, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Mr. Senator Dennis Moses, fellow citizens all, wherever you are tonight, permit me to acknowledge two distinguished Tobagonians at the head table. On my left, the leader of the People's National Movement, Tobago Island Council. That leader joins a line of people who seem to be taking over this country very quietly but very effectively. President, Speaker, Head of the Senate, Head of the PNM and Tobago, we're watching all here. Keeping our eyes on you all. The women are taking over this country. Our daughters are taking over from us. Because on my right, I have the Chief Secretary, but he represents youth. Chief Secretary Ansel Dennis. So we're getting one, and then on his right, two more women. We're keeping our eyes on you all. You're taking over, or you have taken over. Because last election, you, the people of Tobago, presented two young people to the PNM to contest the general election. We were in the opposition then. And all we had was the hope that you would be sensible and vote wisely. And with the information available to you as to what your future held, you give us the quality of persons to run the government of Trinidad and Tobago for the next 5 years. In the East, you gave us Ayanna Webster Roy, Mrs. Ayanna Webster Roy, a mother of 2 young children, but a person who had been serving Tobago in the public service. In the West, you gave us Shamfa Kojo. And in the office of Prime Minister, you gave the country the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West. And in so doing, you put 3 voices on the cabinet table. Tobago in the Prime Minister's office, Minister from Tobago East in the Prime Minister's office as Minister responsible for Women and Children's Affairs, and MP for Tobago West, Minister of Sport and Youth Affairs at this time, having served as Minister of Tourism before. Tonight, as head of the cabinet, I want to say to the people of Tobago that your choices in 2015 were very good choices. They represent the best that you have to offer. They have worked well, and they have served not just Tobago, not just their constituencies, but they are serving their country well. I then would not spend much of my time here tonight trying to convince you that that is so, because I know that you know that. And the best yardstick that you can use to measure these young women who came forward into public service is to ask yourself whether you will ask your children to be like them and to do what they have done, which is to do well and come forward not only for themselves, but for the rest of the nation. I'm sure the answer would be yes. They are serving us well. Election campaigns show up a lot of things, but tonight I want to deviate from a lot of what you might expect in a political meeting. Because taking one look at this hall, someone will not think that this is a political meeting. But it demonstrates what the politics of this country and the country's governance need more than ever. And that is discipline. Discipline. To see you in this hall, which we would normally fill from wall to wall in any PNM function, in a normal circumstance, you will fill this room from wall to wall with Tobagoans from all walks of life. But tonight, you are seated, spaced out, paying attention from your chairs, wearing your masks, because this general election is taking place during a historic development, a dangerous historic development, a development that threatens our life, a pandemic. And you are here doing what has to be done to protect yourself and to protect us during a pandemic, even as we go about our business. I trust that there might be a photograph of this for the rest of the nation to understand that it can be done. We can get on with our business and we can fight COVID at the same time. You are representing discipline. And all that we have to do going forward, everything that we have to do going forward requires discipline. Because in our watchwords that Dr. Williams gave us, he started with discipline. Then he spoke about production and he spoke about tolerance. Discipline, production, and tolerance. I could tell you, Dr. Williams didn't know that there was a pandemic coming. But his entreaty to us to be a disciplined people could not have hit the nail better on the head. We are a disciplined people, and it is that discipline. It is that discipline that has caused us to act in a particular way, where today, Trinidad and Tobago is one of the few countries in the world that could say that the rate at which we are being infected is very, very low because we have been acting in a particular disciplined way. I ask you to continue. As long as that virus is the threat, and as long as the medical staff in our hospitals and in the ministry tells us that this is the best thing to do, let us follow their advice, and God will be our guide. I thank you. There were a number of conversations that were taking place in this country for the months and years. We are now at the end of a 5-year term. And it's at the end of that term that I'm asking you to come out on August 10th and support our 2 candidates to continue to serve you in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. You would have heard the observation from the leader of the PNM here in Tobago, Mrs. Tracy Davidson Celestine, making the observation that Tobago's interest is best served when Tobagoans are sitting at the table where the decisions are being made. That is important. You know that if you vote these 2 PNM candidates into office, they will sit where the decisions are being made with the rest of the PNM team in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and you would be well served. That's what you know. Others who would like to replace them have offered you independence. Independence to start with. Then when that didn't take root, to excite your reaction, they said, okay, what they're fighting for is internal self-government. And they're going down to make sure they get it. Such conversations assume that you are stupid. And you will then follow something that looks good, sounds good, but is a nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, on this subject of internal self-government, right now, the most progress that ever was made on that since the THA Act was passed is in progress now in the Parliament. And you don't need any indisciplined noisemaker to tell you about your quest for further autonomy in Tobago. Orville London, the Venerable Orville London who served you so well, the undefeated Orville London, conducted in this Tobago 2 years of consultation in virtually every village in Tobago, under the guidance of legal experts and your local experts, those with information and those with only ambition. We had 2 years of talking about it here in Tobago. Out of that came draft pieces of legislation. And the next step, having put what you talked about and what you think it should be and how we should proceed and what you want and so on, doable and undoable in some cases, you put it in script, in a draft law, which now the next step in our governance structure is to get that to the cabinet. You did that, that happened. By the time it got to the cabinet, there was a Tobagonian as head of the cabinet, as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. The cabinet looked at it, we discussed it, but we did not change it in any way because we wanted what Tobagonians said to go to the parliament, because the authority for making any change like that is the parliament. Nobody else could tell you otherwise, because that is so, you know that. So while the cabinet discussed it, cabinet wanted your generic thoughts to go to the parliament as they were encapsulated in those draft laws. So we then took it to the parliament. The PNM only has a certain number of votes in the parliament, but those votes are bolstered by the party's position at convention, where we are the only political party that by resolution at a convention said that we are supporting this move by the Tobagonians as they move forward in for further. The only party, the PNM. But we do not have enough seats in the parliament to make the changes that are required to advance the situation as it exists now in law. So it goes to parliament, because the country is Trinidad and Tobago, and I'll come back to that in a minute. It goes to the parliament, and in order for it to go any further, doesn't matter what you think here in Tobago, doesn't matter what you want, or how you vex, or how you agree, or how you're nice and smooth, the only way it can move beyond that to the next step is if the votes in the parliament vote to make some changes that you want, or all the changes that you want. So it goes to a joint select committee. That joint select committee is made up of government people, opposition people, and the independent senators made up. And that committee is now where the matter lies. And the committee has been working, contrary to what you have heard from Watson Duke, about we took it to parliament and threw it behind some thing for cockroach to live on. Let me tell you what has happened since that thing went to the parliament. I'll just quote here from a document I just received from the leader of government business. And it says, over the course of several meetings from November 2019 to January 2020, the committee carried out a clause-by-clause examination of the bill supported by the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel. 5 policy issues in the bill were identified. Local stakeholder comments as well as international expert contributions were taken into consideration to arrive at and rank a range of options going forward for each policy issue. The policy issues were financial provisions, A, budgetary allocation, B, revenue sharing, C, fiscal review, D, borrowing, and E, the establishment of a Tobago fund. Item 2, dispute resolution. Item 3, Tobago Civil Service and Tobago Service Commission. 4, Tobago legislature, and 5, division of powers. That division of powers, that is anchored in the Constitution, Section 75, which requires a certain number of votes to be interfered with. That is the work that is taking place in the Parliament. And then it goes on to say, in May 2018, the committee held discussions on the bill with United Nations Development Program, UNDP, policy specialists with expertise in political and fiscal matters in autonomous subnational regions. The following issues were addressed: autonomy for Tobago within the state of Trinidad and Tobago. 2, the division of powers between the state of Trinidad and Tobago and the island of Tobago. 3, financing and revenue sharing. 4, dispute resolution between the levels of government, and 5, Tobago government institutions. And of course, the report also addressed the following issues: 1, purpose and nature of Tobago's autonomy status. 2, definition of Tobago. 3, autonomy structures Tobago legislature. 4, division of powers and functions between Trinidad and Tobago government and the island government legislative. 5, the civil service. 6, intergovernmental fiscal relations. 7, fiscal review commission. 8, intergovernmental dispute resolution. And 9, central institutions and principles and process of shared rule. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the distillates of the work that you have done here in Tobago in your consultation, in the draft bill that is before the Parliament, and that is the work of the Joint Select Committee, which will be kick-started again when we come back in the Parliament as the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So when you hear ill-disciplined Watson Duke talking in Tobago about he going to give you self-government, what he's threatening to do, if he ever find himself in a position to do so, is to derail all of that. And you only have to look at his record in the PSA to know what you will get. You only have to look at that. But we move on, because I'm not going to waste any time on you on Watson Duke, because I know you know better than that. I want to take you tonight to something that you should know. Because you see, last election, I told you all, Watson Duke was a proxy for the UNC. You all didn't believe. I'm telling you again tonight, he is the official UNC candidate in Tobago. And how I know is because I am contesting against the UNC, and I get my information from the UNC. And as a matter of fact, they are paying more attention to and providing more resources to Watson Duke in Tobago than in their own seats in Trinidad. That's what it is. So when they say they're not having any coalition, no partnership, no declared coalition, but they have a quiet one going with an arrangement with Watson Duke if you put God out your thoughts and give him a seat in Tobago. And of course, that is why all along you hear the leader of the UNC saying, we are going alone, we're standing alone, we want no coalition. But 2 weeks before the election, she's calling for an accord with other parties. What other parties is she calling for accord with? She's signaling that she's opening the door to bring Watson Duke in if you put God out your thoughts and give him one of Tobago seats. So we understand that. And let me tell you something else too. I'm not against him fixing anybody's roof in Tobago. In fact, they should fix more roofs. Because the money they're using to fix the roof is the money they take from the government. So if you send them money, send them lumber, send them galvanized, and I want to see how many roofs they will fix between now and August 10th. But all of that is to make a fool out of you. But let me tell you how our money has been spent. Because you see, as we come close to the election, they started feeling confident. Because they know that the government knew what was happening, but the government could not be talking about what was happening because we are a responsible government. So they began to believe that nothing was going to happen to them. Because if they get into power, especially with Watson Duke help, they will stop all that was going on. So at the same time they were saying nothing is happening, they know they want to stop certain things. I don't normally come and read for you on any platform. When I come to these podia, I have something to say to you, and I stand in front of you and I tell you what I have to say. Tonight I want to read for you, because tonight is a signal night, because today was a signal day. I went out to Roxborough this morning, where we are rebuilding the town of Roxborough. We are recreating a new Roxborough. And it's not just for Roxborough, it is for all of Eastern Tobago, the furthest part east of our country. Since I became Prime Minister about 50 months ago, thereabouts, I have had the opportunity to take part with the THA in the opening of the Roxborough Administrative Center. So Roxborough has, in the town of Roxborough now, in the new town center that's being built, an administrative center that provides all public service, including customs and Coast Guard. Then we subsequent to that, I had the opportunity to turn this on for a new hospital in Roxborough. Today I toured that hospital and I was very pleased with what I saw going on there. It's about 50% complete and they're working 7 days a week and the work is progressing very well. So Roxborough is having a new hospital. So Roxborough also has a new fire station that is now 96% complete. By the end of this month, it will be complete and handed over. Roxborough also had in that area, that general area of Roxborough that we're building up there, you would see the secondary school, hospital, the new police station which we opened recently. There's a new gas station there which was built in 2015, and of course you would see the new fire station and you would see the administrative complex. That is now the center of the second town in Tobago and is growing fast. But all of those developments I mentioned that took place in our time in this period of shortage of money, that is a question of decision making and what you want to do for the people and how you want to use their resources. Much of what you see there is a development program for Tobago, because in the western part of Tobago we have a major project underway now, which is the whole question of the expansion of the Tobago airport. It just so happens it's taking place now when tourism and air traffic is virtually dead. But it wouldn't always be so. By the time we would have finished building that airport terminal building and we come back to some semblance of normalcy, we will have in Tobago an airport that can receive proper traffic and Tobago's tourism and Tobago's entry and egress would have been in place. And the decision to give those items priority is a decision made by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, a PNM government. It is not that those things weren't required for Tobago before. They have been required for quite some time, but other people choose to spend on other things and not to spend on those things. This government of which Shamfa Kojo is a part, on which Ayana Webster Roy is a part, and where I am the Prime Minister, we chose to spend on those things, and that's why you're getting those things. That's why they're a priority. And that's why you need to come out and vote. You need to come out and vote in support of that. Because to not vote is to say you don't care. And to vote for Watson Duke and the UNC in 90, you could do that to Tobago. You couldn't do that. Yeah? Take a stand for what you believe in. Take a stand for your interests. Let me put this in perspective for you. As I came back from Roxborough this morning, I was depressed after I read The Guardian. Not that what I was reading was news to me, because as Prime Minister, a lot of information comes to me from all different directions, inside and outside the government. I knew what I read, but reading it and seeing that being read, being told to the people of this country, seeing this being our circumstance, I felt depressed, because we could have done better than that. We must do better than this. Many of you would not have read The Guardian today. Let me read it for you. I'm going to convert my speech tonight in reading The Guardian, a very unusual development. Sunday, July 19th, my staff printed this out and sent it to me so I could read it from page, not from the, it's easy to read from here. But I'm reading it word for word. Get a copy of today's Guardian, story by Mark Bassant, lead editor on the investigative desk. And I'm reading this for you, and Tobagoans and the rest of the country, pay attention. Because there were people who are on their way to Parliament now who are telling you that there was nothing to worry about and there was nothing being said that they should be concerned about. And the whole issue about corruption in this country was a joke. Well, let me tell you what the joke is. The Anti-Corruption Investigation Bureau, the ACIB, has cracked the case involving the pillaging of taxpayers' money through a fraudulent scheme involving the Estate Management and Business Development Company, EMBD, in the lead up to the September 2015 general election, and arrests are imminent. Over the last year and a half, officers from the ACIB, with assistance from a UK prosecution and investigation firm, Edmonds Marshall McMahon, have been able to piece together complex financial information which forms part of the criminal investigation being pursued by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So these are statements of fact. A document obtained by the Guardian media revealed that a prominent politician, and I may want to add here, who in a safe seat, they say, who on the way back to Parliament and they go win the election and going back into government, a prominent politician orchestrated a scheme that resulted in significant funds being secured and spent by EMBD in 6 weeks, listen to the time, in 6 weeks before the general election on September 7th, amounting to a staggering, listen, $549 million. That is over $500 million spent in 6 weeks between August and September. Investigators believe this politician was able to implement the fraudulent scheme with the assistance of a former senior employee of the EMBD, who has now fled the country, and his close acquaintances, the CEOs of all the 4 construction companies, who in turn engage the assistance of subordinates. Investigators have painstakingly mapped out the modus operandi of the major players, several individuals and companies who helped to facilitate this scheme from the embryonic stages to fruition. I told you we knew that, but the reason why I'm telling you now is because you're paying attention when you're listening. Because had I said this before, they would have been saying, it's politics. Is the Prime Minister trying to play politics? This is now in the Guardian for the public to buy a copy and read, but I want you to read, I want you to know. So you see, a man, the politician called the boss by investigators, with the assistance of the former EMBD senior employee and a contractor, concocted a series of road upgrade projects known as C1 to C10 roads. Investigators revealed these projects came out of the blue, and a note to the cabinet, and remember, only a minister of government can carry a note to the cabinet. A note to the cabinet seeking approval for the works and funding had been drafted long before the EMBD engineer had visited the site of the roads. Turn the page. The boss presented the note to the cabinet, and the works and funding was approved on April 30th, 2015. Stick a pin. The term of the UNC, there are 5 years, was ending in May. They took the 90 days that the law allowed, taking the election to September. But the term of office that they were elected for was ending in May. So in April, on the last day of April, the sum of $330 million was approved for these traces and lanes and roads in the bush somewhere in central Trinidad. Investigators discovered that these projects did not form part of EMBD's scope of work and therefore became additional funding. By the time the tender had come around, EMBD's estimate for the cost of the roads had been arbitrarily inflated to $416,340,000 by a senior employee of the EMBD. This meant that bidders could now bid higher. Bidding companies colluded with each other to predetermine who would win which road. During the lengthy investigation, police found evidence of full bid information for the 7 and 8 roads, dated before the bids were submitted on a computer in one of the companies in question. The contracts were awarded to the companies with bids that were suspiciously close to each other. At least 8 of the 10 bids were within 2% of the estimates. Once the roads began, the companies submitted fraudulent claims for materials not used or work not done. In one instance, A company claimed $23 million for Guaracara boulders that were not used. Another company double counted and overclaimed a similar amount for excavation work linked to road widening that was never done. A senior employee from EMBD apparently signed off on the claims. Another employee questioned the claims made by the two companies, but was told by the senior EMBD employee that he had to sign off on the claims because the boss ordered it. On August 25th, 2015, this is now in the middle of the election campaign, because remember it started on April 30th. In the middle of that election campaign of 2015, on August 25th, the boss instructed an official to submit the claims to the Ministry of Finance to make an interim payment to companies in the sum of $179,626. So contractors were getting a bonanza right then and there. The Ministry of Finance, which initially said that there was no money to meet the claims, provided and approved $100 million on September 1st. Election day, September 7th. The following day, the senior employee at a particular company, after receiving instructions from the boss as to how the $100 million should be spent, sent a message to the senior employee at the EMBD. Investigators discovered the boss will regularly instruct the senior EMBD employee who should be paid. So understand something. A private company individual, on the instruction of a minister, was telling EMBD employees how to distribute $100 million. The boss was able to help secure an additional funding for EMBD. And listen to this. The boss was able to get additional funding when the $100 million was deployed of a $400 million loan from First Citizens Bank. So there was thieving money that you had, and there was thieving money you didn't have because it was borrowing money to thief it. Investigators revealed that in total, between the 7th of August and the 3rd of September 2015, let me repeat that. Between the 7th of August, that is in the middle of the election campaign, and the 3rd of September, that is the Thursday before election, which is the second to last working day of the UNC, the EMBD received funding to the tune of $549 million. By the close of business on September 4th, which was the Friday evening, the last day that the UNC was in office, all that money had been spent in that 1 month. 4 companies received a total of $400 million, and other contractors received nothing. These are what the documents show, documents that are in the possession of the Guardian. That's why the Guardian could have published this story today. According to the forensic investigation, you see, when they were telling him that was happening and nothing happened, there was a forensic investigation taking place. So today, the Guardian could publish, and I quote, according to the forensic investigation, a paper trail revealed that about 60 million of unexplained payments have been identified to companies or individuals that appear to have no commercial connection to the companies. In one instance, millions of dollars were paid to low-level employees in one of the companies that benefited from the fraudulent scheme. The document, which comes from the AACIB, it says, stated that as the money trail is followed, the amounts converted to cash increase. So you start at the top with checks from the bank to the Minister of Finance, to the EMBD, to contractors, and then the contractors started dealing large amounts of cash. The lengthy probe also found that apart from the enrichment of certain companies, a former senior EMBD employee who covered to the boss's instructions also benefited from payments amounting to over $1 million. During the year and a half long investigation, because they will come and tell you about this by election, during the year and a half long investigation, the ACIB conducted searches of several companies across the country. They were able to collect data from EMB and other state entities. They also obtained several production orders covering at least 24 account holders and information on close to 50 bank accounts. The ACIB was also able to obtain production orders from 2 telecom companies and call and message logs for at least 12 key phone numbers. They have also obtained witness statements from ENBD staff, police officers, cybercrime officers, Central Bank, TT Mortgage Company, TTNF, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and a quarry company. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what has been happening with respect to pursuing those who felt that they could do what they want in Trinidad and Tobago, and they had it where we thought to fool the electorate and get themselves back into the corridors of power and prevent this from going further. When I told you earlier on, without going into details, I kept telling you the wheels of justice turn slowly, but they do turn. That what I just read there for you from The Guardian is the work of the Anti-Corruption Bureau in Trinidad and Tobago involving the police and all the authorities. I told you also that those other people have no interest in your development as they have shown before, and that's why your development is only coming now under this PNM government. All that they mentioned tonight, who spoke here on this platform as to what is happening in Tobago and Tobago development. We are interested in your development. Those bandits were all interested in your money. And I want to ask you tonight, given what you just heard and can read in the Guardian, if you send back to Parliament and into government, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, head of the party, Prime Minister, Jeremy John, deputy political leader, Munina, deputy political leader, and of course, any others who they influence, do you expect them to encourage the government of Trinidad and Tobago to work and conclude these criminal investigations? Based on what they did with the Piaco Airport inquiry, do you expect a government led by that group of people and anybody who they influence in the cabinet that they will allow justice to be served? And that is why I'm saying to you tonight, you have a choice. You can support the government's actions through these agencies and let these matters be concluded so that you can know what happened to your money and who should be held accountable and let justice take its course. You see, you got up one morning, one Saturday morning here in this country, or no, it was a Thursday afternoon. One Thursday afternoon, out of the blue, you were told that as of Monday morning, the banks would be closed and all your $100 bills would be changed for new ones. Many of you didn't understand what it meant. They gave my remember about 10 or 5 articles to talk about every Friday. They said the country going to collapse because the government changed the money at Christmas time and was a bad decision, and la 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 la. It turned out that exchange of bills in Trinidad and Tobago was the smoothest and most effective ever carried out in the world. And it had to be done in secret, because had they known, those who had cash in barrel and in box, wherever they had it, had they known that that money was going to be changed, they would have moved heaven and earth to get it into the banking system before time had closed. So it had to be done in secrecy. There were 3 people in this country who knew that that was being done. 3 officers of state who knew. And for 2 years we worked on that. So when we told you that Thursday afternoon, get ready to change the money, everything was in place. And when those who tell us that it cannot be done because it takes long to print the money is already printed. And when you're going to get to the airport Thursday, the plane is being loaded in London. Right? And when it was all said and done, and you got a report recently from the Central Bank, almost $500 million never came back to the exchange. And I asked you the question then, who were the owners of that money that didn't bring it to exchange it for new money? And I answered it for you. It was people who could not be seen to associate with the money. So they had to keep it. Small pieces, very difficult to make toilet paper with that. Right? But that's where it is now. That's where it is now. You can imagine a little country like this, in a little economy like ours, we are changing, giving you a new bill for the old one, and 500 million will come back. A few of them walk up with money that I couldn't explain. The money got sealed. Then the poor will never come back to look at it. Because in the interim, we were passing laws in the country, laws that we didn't have to fight by color turn. And every time we go to Parliament with one of those laws, man, they fight us to the bitter end and would not support a single piece. There was one called Explain Your Wealth. They wanted no part of that. Proceeds of Crime Act, they wanted no part of that. Factor where you have to tell the Americans what you know and they will tell you what they know. They wanted no part of it. All kinds of excuses. And they opposed every piece of legislation. But with your PNM government and the support of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, without their help, we have passed a suite of legislation that puts this country in a position to deal with that problem. That, ladies and gentlemen, is only a snippet of the circumstance. That is local. International. I went to Barbados soon after I was Prime Minister. I was at some meeting in Barbados, and one of my girlfriend friends said to me that somebody wanted to talk to me. And I asked, who is this person? It was some shady, nebulous character who, hearing that I was in Barbados, decided to use a friend of mine to talk to me. And I said, what about? He had supplied some ship to Trinidad and Tobago, and he wanted to talk to me about the payment, the money. I said, stop. Just stop right there. I said, anybody who provides 12 vessels to a country on credit without documentation and financing being in place that will stand scrutiny is not to talk to me. I say, and if he has any issue with the government of Trinidad and Tobago and a debt that was incurred for anything he supplied, let him go and talk to the relevant authorities in Trinidad and Tobago. He's not talking to me. I didn't know the man, I never seen him, and I never saw him. Today, I want to read something else for you. And I'm reading it because I just put the facts together. It's important that I don't misrepresent anything, so I'm not going to freewheel it for you. I just read it. There's a brief that I have which says, in September 2015, the Dutch Fiscal Intelligence and Investigative Service, FIOD, initiated a criminal investigation into the suspicion of bribery committed by the Damen Shipyard Group, Damen, a company based in Groningen, in Netherlands. The investigation was led by the Anti-Corruption Division of the Dutch National Prosecutor's Office. In 2015, the prosecution received various signals that Damen was involved in bribery of foreign officials relative to vessel building contracts awarded to Damen. These signals came from foreign authorities such as the World Bank and Damen's external accountant, Ernst & Young. In January 2017, the offices of Damen were raided based on suspicion and further investigation. A large amount of data and digital information was seized. From this investigation, several additional suspicions arose relative to foreign bribery and are being investigated under different investigation projects. So there are serious investigations taking place in Holland with respect to the company that just miraculously in 2015, out of the blue, appeared on the scene and made 12 vessels available to Trinidad and Tobago by contract that we never heard about before, some of the vessels got here before the election, and we had to pay for the rest when we came into office. The most expensive ones we had to pay by the end. But there was this arrangement, this damming just appeared on the scene. And damming is a family company, in case you don't know. It's owned by a family. And the investigation that the Dutch government is doing now with international assistance, one, is called the Caribbean investigation, two, the Bahamas investigation, and three, the Trinidad and Tobago investigation. The agent for damming functioned with regard to the contracts awarded to damming by governments of the Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago. Under the Bahamas investigation, what triggered the attention of the Dutch anti-corruption government agencies was that the PNM government had bought 9 patrol vessels and a roll-on roll-off vessel for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. The total cost of the contract was 84 million euros. That is 665 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. The agent on that contract was paid $79 million, which was 12% of the contract paid to an agent. That's what the Bahamas deal. What caused the Dutch to be alerted is that agency fees in Holland are usually no more than 4%. But this one was 12%. And when they looked, they realized that something was going on. And then they looked at Trinidad and Tobago. And the Trinidad and Tobago investigation shows that damming was contracted on the 16th of March 2015. Let's go back down memory lane. When Kamala Prasad Bisasat, the UNC, came into office, they met the Patrick Manning government having paid for and to receive a finished one of more offshore patrol vessels. There was another one that was about to go to have sea trials. One had already completed the sea trials and was ready for delivery. They canceled that contract. Remember that? And they took back the $1 from the people. And we had no patrol vessels as the Manning government had put in place to patrol our borders. A few months later, after they came into office, the Venezuelan economy started to go in a certain direction, and the Venezuelan politics got from bad to worse after Chavez died. And the outcome of that was there was migration out of Venezuela, and by the time I became Prime Minister, one of the biggest problems I had to face was an invasion of Venezuelan migrants into Trinidad and Tobago. And they had a lot to say. Close the border, close the border, close the border. After they cancelled the patrol vessels, which are the tools for closing the border, guns and women overrun Trinidad and Tobago and South America. And as I mentioned to you, guns and women, you are asking if you think Kamala Prasad Bisasat will want these investigations concluded. I want to ask you another question. If Ratiram is in the cabinet, do you think human trafficking will end in Trinidad and Tobago in peace? They are the people who are threatening to be in charge of our country. If you put God out of your thoughts, we are fighting human trafficking. We are fighting that criminality and all the crime that goes within guns and women. And you carefully picking people who could facilitate that, to put them in the cabinet too. But let me tell you about our investigation with the Dutch. March 16th, which is just over 2 months before the term ended. So all the time, 2015, just about 2 months before they're due to leave. All the time, they wouldn't appoint a commissioner of police. They fired the commissioner of police, wouldn't replace him. Had Stephen Williams done month to month or week to week, telling us that they don't fight crime in the sea. They fight them on the street in that month. Remember that story? But as they were about to go to the polls and expecting that that would be a major election issue in March of 2016, March 16, 2015, sorry, they put an order in for 12 damming vessels. And the contract price was $1,368,000,000, so $1.368 billion. That was the size of that contract for those 12 vessels that they ordered from Darwin 2 months before they were about to leave office. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2016, the agent, so they had an agent for the Trinidad contract. The agent sent Darwin 13 invoices with reference to the Trinidad and Tobago project for a total of 150 million TT dollars. The investigation discovered that a total commission to a foreign agent, its local partner, so there was a local agent, there was an agent with a local partner, and its St. Lucia affiliate, there was a St. Lucia affiliate, in the sum of 23 million euros. That is 177 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. That's what the agent cornered in that contract to provide those vessels with credit. So the Bahamas agency cost Bahamas 12%. Trinidad and Tobago was 13% of the contract. A contract of 1.368 billion. They couldn't go straight to Darwin and buy it. They had to buy it through middlemen and middlewomen and give them $177 million. And all of this was done in great secrecy. And of course, they were hoping that they never knew. But the local agent, the Dutch government is telling you there were some other flags that caused them to want to look at it. Because they saw the buyers of the vessels were government agencies. They saw the location of the agent. Remember I told you a man from Barbados when he talked to me? The agency was in somebody's basement in Barbados. And the fact that a former Minister of National Security was involved in the negotiation of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard contract and was mentioned in relation to corruption. So that investigation by the Dutch, like the one I just mentioned, the MBD, has a government minister identified in it as part of the investigation process. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been going on. On March 21st, 2018, the Central Authority Unit met with a public prosecutor with the National Prosecutor's Office of Serious Fraud and Environmental Crime and the Task Force Against International Corruption for the Netherlands. And his man's name there. The prosecutor indicated that the Dutch prosecuting authorities were investigating a Dutch international shipbuilding company with respect to a major corruption scandal which involved government shipbuilding contracts in the Caribbean and included the ordering of vessels by the Coast Guard of Trinidad and Tobago in 2015. The Dutch prosecutors invited representatives from Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados and the Bahamas to attend a Eurojust coordination joint meeting in the Netherlands on July 11 to 12, 2018 at the Eurojust offices in The Hague, in Netherlands. The Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago and the Director of Public Prosecutions both attended this meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, so when you hear them saying that nothing has been going on and nothing will happen and the corruption was all talk and that was only PNM talk for political purposes, those were the billions of dollars and that's only part of the story. As I tell you, this is not news to me. But I could not go telling you this upon the place because you will listen to them when they and the lawyers start to cry. You see the Prime Minister talking about it and the Minister talking about it because it's political, but it's out in the open. No. It is not political, it is information because the owners of the money need to know and you are the owners of those monies and you need to know what the UNC did with your money. And you also need to know that justice will be served because serious investigations have taken place and serious investigations actions are going on, and for them to continue. We're going to keep them as far as possible from the corridors of power. Because the only way there will be no answers to these questions is if they are allowed in there to stop it, to prevent it from being concluded. So then I would ask you, if the hospital in Roxborough costs $100 million as it is, what do you make of $177 million going to some man that somebody knew at an agency fee like that? And if all that we have done for Roxborough, if we had that $549 million, what could we have done for the rest of the country? And while they were spending money like that, they didn't think to build a new airport terminal building in Tobago. And I have to listen to what Duke telling me what he going to be Prime Minister, to work with them as Prime Minister, to do what in this country. I want you to close your eyes for a second in this meeting and picture Trinidad and Tobago. Watson Duke as the Kennedy cabinet table with our UNC government. And we can blame them for you. So if Watson Duke in the Prime Minister chair, come back home, but she don't come to work. Khadija Amin, Ratiram, Children John, that is Trinidad and Tobago's future. That is the future that they are offering us on August 10th if you put God out of your thoughts. And make those kind of about, other countries have done worse. Other countries have done worse, thinking that we're doing better. But you have every reason to steer yourself away from that. Because you have had the opportunity to select, to advance, to work with, and to see the outcome of the representation that you have sent to Parliament and to a PNM cabinet, and a PNM government, and a Trinidad and Tobago run by the PNM. I am also going to Tobago East. And some for Kojo and Tobago West. That is all you need to do on August 10th. That's all you need to do on August 10th. And wait for the rest of the answer. You send them to Parliament. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a particularly difficult time for any government that would have been in office in Trinidad and Tobago. We have had to fight this COVID. We have had to find money to distribute money that almost 50,000 people, we had to provide money to their hands in one way or the other that was not budgeted for. But because of what the virus did to us and the danger it posed, because of the only way we could fight it was to shut down the country, send you into your house, close the door, and let it pass by. We had that to fund. That was coming upon us even as we were having difficulty paying the bills that we had before in the normal pre-COVID time. So now we're in an election campaign. And last night I had the misfortune or the good fortune to see the UNC advertisements on the television. All of a sudden they wake up and they have plan. They have plan. They have plan. So I said, let me see this plan that they have. For the last election, as they were buying these boats and doing all these kinds of deals, they launched upon the country something called the blue economy, and the silver economy, and the white economy, and the gray economy, when it was all the yellow economy. And of course, when I looked at it, it's a whole series of descriptions of what they will do with money. And in some instances, they didn't need money, just it was magic. They were going to reopen Caroni Limited and start to produce cane again. They were no, we are having difficulty raising money to pay the bills that we have, to pay a salary and so on and so on. They're going to create funds, FUNDS, pools of money. Create these pools of money by the billions of dollars, and these billions of money, magic money, child rating, will suddenly fund the economy to create 50,000 jobs. They had no interest in creating jobs by doing those things when they had the treasury and money in the treasury and the cabinet to make decisions to give you jobs in. One man just got a job there as an agent, he got $177 million. Their favorite contractors Some building house come with pumpkin in Tobago, some building Prime Minister house in Trinidad, then get $400 million in 4 weeks. That $549 million is approximately almost $20 million a week going to those fellas. They were not servicing Tobago on that scale. The service to Tobago was not being funded on that scale. But they were shoveling money out of the treasury in that way to their secret people. I'm not coming to tell you on television every night, going on Google and Googling sites of all kinds of nice things and telling you that is what they're going to be doing for you in plans and woke nation and putting it back. You are not a woke nation. You are a nation that has been abused by the UNC and the corrupt practice and the money stolen and the time wasted, and now they want to stand in the way of your defense and your further progress. You should be calling out for justice. You should be calling out for them to be identified by name, rank, and serial number. And you should be saying that they have no business anywhere in the public money. They have a plan. They always have a plan. The last night I was one amazement. One of the big plans is that they will abolish property tax. Well, they have already abolished it. The last time property tax was paid in this country was 2009. When they came into office, then up to that, from that day till now, nobody has ever paid property tax in this country. Billions of dollars going down the drain in an economy that needs every dollar. To pay the nurses, the doctors, to build the hospital, and to build what we're building now. To look after the roads, and they talk about the roads, and they give you water. Look for the tax. That is a big point. Because the figure, if you hear about abolition of tax, you will run and vote for them because you want to live in this country and don't pay tax. Ladies and gentlemen, the money that the government spends on you and your children and your grandmother and everything we do here is from taxes we collect in one form or another, which is then spent on you, including keeping you in a job. So they're not only going to abolish the tax that they already abolished, but they're going to reduce income tax. Ladies and gentlemen, you are already experiencing significant reduction in income tax under this government. When we came into office, if you were earning $5,000 a month or less, you paid no tax. So 12 by 5, that was $60,000 of your income was tax-free. We, in a difficult period, we raised it to leave more money in your hand. We said, we'll put that level at $6,000 a month. 6,000 by 12, that is $72,000. So now under this government, if you are earning $72,000 or less, you pay no tax. This irresponsible woman is saying that she wants to reduce tax. Corporation tax is at 25% nominally. But when they finish doing the books and making all the claims and doing what they're going to do, the economist tells us the real tax that is actually paid is about 18%. In a time when we need every dollar to run the country, to maintain and to help us to do what we have to do to keep you going forward, and we're standing in the same place. You also can go backwards. She is talking about reducing corporation tax. And accusing this government of being tax crazy. And we go after tax. We use taxation responsibly. We raised the income tax on the banks from 25% to 30% because we said in this season and in this period, everybody has to contribute, and we asked the banks to pay a little bit more because the banks were doing so much better than everybody else. And having taxed the banks at 30%, the banks are still reporting increased profits, so the taxation has not been a problem for the banks. She will come in and say, put her into office, and she will give back the banks the money the government is taking now to service you. And of course, she is saying that all of these things will be done without money. Without money. But I'm saying to you here today, especially you in Tobago, where the vast majority of workers in Tobago are on the government payroll. If you all fall for the folly of those persons who give you that kind of will talk for political purposes only, and you make the mistake of allowing them to do what they're saying they're going to do, you are the next candidate for the International Monetary Fund. And when she takes you to the International Monetary Fund, they will leave you and go and leave the money wherever they have it. And you will be without a job, and without an opportunity, and without the future that the PNM is building for you here in Tobago and Trinidad. Because you only have to look at what they're talking about and ask yourself, where and when did they get these ideas? How come these ideas were not available to us when they were in office? They're speaking about agricultural land, 25,000 acres of agricultural land for farming purposes under this arrangement. Ask them to point to you 2 acres of land that was cultivated under their 5-year stewardship. They can't show you because they have no interest in that kind of thing now. But they believe that they could write that up in a fancy brochure or a fancy video program and put it to you, and you will think that they have ideas. The only ideas that they have is how in God's name we will escape the authorities who are now onto us in the way that I have described tonight. How are we going to escape? Because that is their primary objective. And if they're so concerned about their own personal position, then they have no time to think about talking about you and your future. They are devoid of ideas. In Tobago, there's a description of a bodily function called belly hook, right? That's what they are. Right? You see, you need to be serious. You need to be disciplined. And you have been serious, and you have been disciplined. And that's why Tobago's future is secure. The name of this country is Trinidad and Tobago. There's a general election, and not for the first time, this political party that wants to govern Trinidad and Tobago refuses to identify itself in Tobago. That should tell you all you need to know. Maybe after I speak tonight, they may try to come to Tobago and have a meeting for the sake of saying that that is not true. They have taken no interest in Tobago on top of the table. The only interest they have in Tobago is the interest they make with what's new. And the more he tells them that he will the 2 Tobago seats, is the more the money he gets in. Because they believe in that foolishness. But Watson Duke will not be the first Tobagonian who was misled by the media or by persons in Trinidad who thought they had support in Tobago. Because come August 10, I have every confidence that the vast majority of Tobago will vote for Tobago seats. So let them play the games. Let them play the games. Disrespect you. Imagine a general election. You talking about you, obviously going to win the election, you would not put up a candidate in Tobago. You know why? Because of how you treat Tobago and how you see Tobago. Your party's logo, your party's name, and your party's color will not win in a dog catcher position in Tobago. You know that? So the only option available to you is to find some Tobagonian who will masquerade on some trumped up Tobago issue, like influence and government that is masquerading on something he knows nothing about. And the objective is to deceive you, to entrap you. I can say tonight, without fair contradiction, Watson Duke is the UNC agent in Tobago. Watson Duke is running for the UNC in Tobago. They discuss their business on a regular basis. They meet and they discuss it on a regular basis. They conduct their financing on a regular basis. So he could fool himself and his handful of others. But he can't fool me because I have a good idea and good information as to who my political opponents are and who they represent. In Tobago, Watson Duke is the UNC. But we, the PNM, we don't have to hide from our name. We don't have to hide from our history. Because it's all good there. It's all good where we are. Because we are open to all the people in Trinidad and Tobago. In this, our 65th year, since this party was formed in 1956, we have never had to hide behind anybody in any part of this country. We have put up a candidate in every election, whether it's a general election, it's a local election, a THA election, a by-election. We stand proudly with our candidates and our name, our symbol, and our color, and the population knows that Red is the PNM, the band is our symbol, and Trinidad and Tobago is our destination. So in this election, we have 41 constituencies. We are fighting all 41 as we always do. We have 41 outstanding many of them very experienced, some of them shorter in experience, some brand new, some old, like me, some young, and some will always get old because none of us get any younger. But Trinidad and Tobago always needs the people's national movement. So you know what to know. You know where your interest lies. You know what you have to do. You know where your responsibility is, because to be disciplined is to be responsible. Because the next thing they will tell you, if you don't come out to vote for them, they give them money to stay home. To not come out to vote is to indicate that you are available for their deals and their foolishness. To come out to vote is to say, I want to take a stand on what is good and right for Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago. And when you come out to vote to choose the PNM candidate, you're saying, I want to be a part of the decision making in Trinidad and Tobago. It is crystal clear in Tobago. So I leave you tonight, fully confident that come rain or come shine, on the 10th of August, in Tobago East, you will resoundingly select and elect the candidate for the PNM in Tobago East, Mrs. Ayana Webster-Roy. And as you move from the east to the west, those of you operating in the west, those of you voting in the west, you go to the polling stations, you take a stand, you vote for the PNM candidate, and your candidate is Sampa Kojo of the People's National Movement. Our symbol is the Balizé. Our destination is Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago. Our future is your future, your children's future. It's a difficult time. Tough times don't last forever, but tough people do. So when I see you again, it will be after I've heard you shouting from Charlottesville to Bonaparte, from Mason to Castara, from Scarborough to Mount St. George. I hear you across the channel shouting